Hello, tarot friends. This is Shelley with Divining Nature, and I decided to do the tag that Simon from Hermit's Cave put out called the Deck That. The Deck That tag. So I'm just going to jump right in, and the first prompt is the deck that reflects who I used to be. I have been into tarot and oracle, gosh, it's going on 10 years now. And one of the first decks that kind of got me interested in playing with cards and basically my gateway to tarot really is this deck. This is a Colette Baron Reed deck that you can still find on Hay House. And yeah, I have edged my copy, and I loved this deck when I first began playing with tarot and oracle and expanding my knowledge about these things. I also have a connection with animals. In case you don't know my backstory, I have a degree in exotic animal training. I have done all sorts of jobs working with a variety of species in a variety of settings. Everything from zookeeping. The beginning of my career, I did movie TV work with exotic animals. And so, it's funny because the panther spirit, one of the things that can be annoying for people that know about animals is there's really no such animal as a panther. Sometimes mountain lions are called panthers, but really when you see a big cat called a panther, it's usually either a jag or a leopard, and they are a melanistic phase, which just basically means that their whole coat is more dark. It's a darker coat basically. So what's really cool is that if you see these black phase jags or jaguars or leopards, I mean, there's a lot of other cats too that the same thing will happen with. An example is servals and things like that. But the bottom line is that it's kind of a generic name for a black, usually a big cat, and but they're actually typically a leopard or a jag. And in the sun, you can kind of still see their spots, even with the black. It's kind of interesting. Anyway, side note as the animal nerd in me comes out. So anyway, I really enjoyed this deck for a very long time because it was a perfect gateway for me to get into reading cards in a very gentle way that spoke a language that I could connect with. Sometimes it's a lot if you know too much about a certain topic. It's hard to overlook some things like, I think I've mentioned the white tigers and decks before. And like I said, letting people know that a panther is it's not really a type of animal. It's more about a color phase typically. So anyway, this deck was a really great bridge for me to step into tarot and oracle. And so that was the Spirit Animal Oracle deck. Okay, grab these. And then the next prompt is the deck that surprised me the most. Bear with me while I put these cards away so I don't have cards flying everywhere as I go through this process. So the deck in here is the Tempest Tarot. This deck really surprised me. I knew I enjoyed the artwork. I had seen it around when it was indie and was interested in it. And then I heard it was coming mass market, so I figured I'd wait. The things that surprised me most, like I said, the art I had already seen, and even the Pips kind of enjoyed their take and knew that I liked the art style. But the fact that the cardstock is as decent as it is, I don't know if you can see, really bendy and flexible and not too thick, so I can still shuffle. I do have issues with my wrists and thumb, so it is nice to have a deck that isn't super thick so I can shuffle it. The other thing that surprised me a lot is, I'm not showing it here. I decided to put it in this beautiful Moonlit Fae bag, but even the tuck box is extra thick cardboard. So I think it could over time stand up a little bit better than others. And even the way the cutouts and things, I'm sorry I don't have the box here to kind of, since that's one of the things I'm highlighting about this deck, is that it has a decent tuck box, believe it or not. And in the tuck box, it's not just a little white book, or I'm sorry, just the little pamphlets. You get a true little white book that gives you upright, reversed, and then explains the imagery, which is kind of a nice touch as well. So yeah, this deck surprised me, and I am enjoying it right now. That was the Tempest Tarot. And next is the deck that intimidates me. You know, I have a few of those, and I decided to go with my Tabula Mundi Tarot by M.M. Moline, which this is my first year doing the deck and walk. And so I am using, this deck does come with some Deccan cards, specifically Deccan cards. So those have been nice to use during the deck and walk. As you can see, it gives you, oh, upside down. So it comes with these beautiful Deccan cards for, you know, study or altar. And then also, you know, it's a full tarot. But it is a little bit esoteric. It's Thoth, which I am not super familiar with at this point. Starting to dive in a little bit with some of the Sephiroths and Tree of Life, and starting to learn some of these things. But I do listen to Fortune's Wheelhouse as I've been going through the Decans. And I love that Mel does explain her art choices. And I mean, this deck is so beautiful. So it intimidates me a little bit just because of the extra layers that I have yet to learn. But I am excited for when I start diving in a little bit more with this, these extra layers. The beautiful thing about this deck is you can still read it, obviously, just like any deck. Go as deep as you like, right? And so I am looking forward to learn more about the Golden Dawn and Thoth and the Tree of Life. So that is the Tabula Mundi Tarot. So let's see. The next deck is the deck that gives pure comfort. So for that deck, I chose, in this cute bag here, I chose the Magical Dogs Tarot. So it's interesting. That's so the Magical Dogs Tarot is comforting for me because I have already explained that I have had a career working with animals, and I obviously have had fur babies my whole adult life, and I've had some very special dogs in my life. I am now a dog behaviorist. I specialize in dog anxiety. And so I was kind of looking for a deck that really connected me with dog energy in a way that felt right for me, because I don't love anthropomorphized animals in decks. I mean, you saw earlier with the spirit animal oracle, there were necklaces and crowns and things like that on some of the animals. I can handle a little bit of that. You know, I just don't really want to see them doing superhuman things or wearing clothes or walking on two hind legs and that kind of stuff. But the thing about this deck that I really like is that it's giving you some dog breeds that are specifically in the places that, you know, the origin of that breed, which is kind of cool. Obviously, there's other more generic ones that don't necessarily speak to that. But when I did a deck interview with this deck, I wondered if maybe it would connect me a little bit to some of my dogs that have passed. I know you don't know me very well, probably, but I guess I'm a little psychic is a way to put it. I've had some profound things happen with my grandmother that has passed on my father's side and things like that that have come up, and just the universe sends me some really amazing signs that I have loved ones watching out for me. So anyway, the bottom line is that one of my first dogs that I had as an adult for the first time was a Rottweiler that I rescued from a shelter in the LA area where I lived at the time. And when I did a deck interview with this deck, I ended up getting this, it's the Fire Alpha female, so the Queen of Wands. I got this Rottweiler card, and it basically the deck was letting me know that it was connecting me with Canaan was my Rottie. And then what was interesting is the other two cards that came up were the Ace of Earth, which absolutely spoke to one of my other dogs that had passed, and then her I guess sister, you would say. They weren't actually related, but we rescued them around the same time. I'm trying to see if I can find it here. I did get another ace, and here it is. This is the Ace of Sky. So during my interview spread, when it was asking, you know, about who are you, tell me about yourself, I got these three cards together, and that brought me so much comfort. So much comfort knowing that this deck could connect me with them. So that was a long ramble about my Pure Comfort deck. I have had discussions before with people about other dog decks, and none of them just really quite hit the mark for me. So right now, this is the one. And I've even joked about making my own, right? So the next deck is the deck that gives the best readings. So I'm going to go with my latest, most favorite deck on the planet is the Bon Sequitur Tarot. I love this tarot so much. It is, everything about it is so cute. It shuffles amazing. I love the square. I just love everything about it. I love how vibrant it is. I love the cute takes on some of these cards. I mean, this looks like the tower is vomiting the lightning almost. It cracks me up. I don't know. I love this Six of Wands. It's like, is this after the accolades, going home with your trophy, and how that feels? It's so cool. And so what was interesting though, is that I just had an experience where I had a friend staying with me. And I just was going to pause and say, this card reminds me of Pippi Longstockings. I've heard other people say Anne of Green Gables, but for me, it's Pippi. So anyway, I had a friend staying the night just to kind of be supportive. His mom had just been placed on hospice. She'd been struggling with dementia. And I've been doing a daily card pull and, you know, kind of tracking how these archetypes are showing up for me on a day-to-day basis. And the morning he was getting ready to leave, which was, that would have been Saturday, I ended up pulling the death card in this deck, which is just beautiful. And his mom passed the next day. So the death card did mean the death card that day. So, but it was interesting because it did lead to a really beautiful discussion that, yeah, you know, it's never easy, even though the suffering is over and all of those things. So, I mean, this Queen of Swords, anyway, this deck is, it may be my soul deck. It is just a deck that, like I said, all the things about it just tickle me. I just love it. So, enough gushing about the Bon Sequitur. I don't know, this is the first edition. It was a limited run. I haven't really been talking about availability of the decks as I've been going, but so far I think most of the decks are available, but I am unsure about the Bon Sequitur because it was a limited print run, but I'm hoping she would do a second edition because it's pretty great. Okay, so the deck that is too pretty to use. So this isn't necessarily just about beauty. This is also about rarity. So I'm so excited that the Greenwood Tarot got a reprint. And I ended up with this vintage copy that is in unbelievably amazing shape. Just pristine condition for a deck that, you know, was printed back in, sorry, let me look here, was printed in 1996. So this deck's been around a while, right? But obviously didn't really get used much. The box is worse for wear, I must say, but the deck itself is in great shape. So, and I did get in on the Kickstarter to get the next edition. So if you would be interested in seeing a side-by-side, I'd be willing to do that. I've never really done that, but since I'm new, I'm taking requests. I mean, how beautiful. Jessica Potter's artwork is just beautiful. So that is a deck that is pretty and also trying to keep the condition pristine because it is such a collectible and beautiful part of tarot history. All right, so the next prompt is the deck that made me fall in love with tarot again. Now, I never really fell out of love with tarot, so having said that, this is just a deck that I definitely feel like, though I guess what I'd like to say is that this is a deck that gave me hope that we can, I don't know, just embrace all of our differences, and just, this deck is just so great. It is the Fifth Spirit Tarot. Most people have seen this. I was lucky enough to get an indie copy that I have now. This is the Hay House version. I'm just going to show the more readily available version. I did trim this down just a little bit because I could not really riffle shuffle anyway, and now it hand over hands much better now that I've trimmed it. But I just love that, you know, this is a deck that no matter who you read for, odds are they're going to see themselves in it in some way. And there's just so many really great ways that these archetypes have been illustrated in here. I love, you know, it's Seven of Pentacles. It says peas, but they got pumpkins. And, you know, the activists and the smart and beautiful, simple pips. But like I said, the people are just, yeah, they're elderly and different colors, and just, it's amazing. I really enjoy this tarot. And I did a video with my friend Luna at Creatrix Way, and she it was the prompt about a different animal than a lion in the Strength card, and here it is. And we talked really briefly about that, but I love this Strength card so much, and I mentioned it in her video. But the fact, again, I mentioned that I am a dog behaviorist, and I am not a fan of training that uses aversive techniques. You know, I look at my clients, you know, they're students, they're learning. So my thing is always, it's like, if you are teaching someone something and they get something wrong and you slap them, is their ability to learn going to be increased, or is it going to be decreased? We all know the answer to that, right? So, but the fact that the choke chain is off of the dog, the fact that it is a pit bull, which are much maligned, and there's a whole debate about breed and things like that. But I just think that this is a really beautiful Strength card. And I mean, this Nine of Wands too, it's so good. It's so smart. But yeah, this deck is one of my top decks for sure. And I love everything that Charlie Claire Burgess does. Okay, so the next prompt would be a deck I wished more people talked about. So I'm going to feature this is actually now, I believe, the Spread Crafters. This is the first edition Kickstarter. Yes, I believe it's the Spread Crafters now, by Kimberly San. This is available again. And the reason I'm featuring this and mentioning it is because I have had not a lot of experience of reading for others, but I am kind of working that muscle a little bit more. So cute, the panda in there. And so I've had a couple situations where people want a reading. Get you in frame a little bit more. People want a reading, but they're not exactly sure what the question is. And so what I like to do with this deck is I will shuffle the deck. I will go through the whole process like I would do in a reading for someone else. And then we pull 3 of these cards, let's say. And I don't know why I have them upside down. But let's say, give it a little shuffle here. Let's say I'm doing a reading for someone and they really just have a very general, you know, idea of what they want to ask. You can lay out 3 of these, and then what I do is I will just lay tarot over them. And these 3 cards will let us know, oops, that's an extra blank card. Here we go. So, in the different categories in here, I had a situation where I had done a reading like this for a friend of a friend, and her reading came up, and almost every single card from the Spread Crafters was the shadow work category. And it was a very, it was a reading that called her out. It really called her out, almost to the point where I was a little uncomfortable. But what's interesting is that I just saw her this weekend, and she told me that after that reading, she stopped drinking alcohol, which was basically what the reading was calling her out for. So, and she just talked about how that reading changed her life. And I was really happy to hear that she had taken the advice, right? Because it's one thing to get the reading, it's a whole nother thing to do the work. So I was really proud of her for that, and really appreciated kind of her feedback, because that's the other thing as a reader, right? Is just knowing that whether or not the readings resonate for people and how it helps them. So that is the Spread Machine or Spread Crafters Oracle deck. All right, and then the next deck prompt is, sorry, let me get to my other page of notes here. That feels like a secret between us. And I'm going to choose for this, it's upside down, the Lonely Dreamer Tarot. Now this deck, this is the 3rd edition, and I did back this on Kickstarter. I believe the Lonely Dreamer decks are out of print now, but I do see them being sold secondhand quite often at not horribly expensive prices. It does come with, here's the backs, it does come with some extra cards that were stretch goals in the campaign. The cardstock on this deck is to die for. I edged it. It does not come edged. I did like a gold, or like a gold Sharpie, I believe. And this deck is beautiful. It is found art. Here's the Melissa Witherspoon is the creator. What's really cool about this guidebook is that if any of you are familiar with Mindful Tarot, SD over at Mindful Tarot, here she is. She has a channel, and she does every year what's called a Drop 'em 78 tarot practice that's really great, that I participated in last year. And what I love is that this includes some of her drop 'em practice from using this deck. Really kind of an extra added cool layer that I appreciate. But this deck just feels, like I said, it's very dreamy. It's a dreamy deck, and it does sometimes give me some really neat intuitive hits when I am doing spreads with this deck and working with multiple cards. And so there are times, like I said, where it just feels like it's kind of secretive, I guess, in some ways. So this is definitely another deck that I enjoy so much. So that is the Lonely Dreamer Tarot. Okay, and then the next prompt is the deck that defines my tarot practice right now. And I decided for that I was going to feature the Raincoast Tarot. Now, there are several versions of this deck. And I have here the 2021 borderless version. I think this was a limited print run. He does have several other versions. And again, I'm not exactly sure what's in print, what isn't. But the reason that this represents my tarot practice right now is because I am looking for like decks that that really spark my intuition, I guess I would say. So having extra added little details in a deck that sometimes might not even make sense really can add so much to a reading. And this deck, it has a lot of I mean, this one looks so simple, and then you know, you'll get a particular card, even like this one, where you've got like a face in the beard and things like that. You know, like I said, there's just sometimes little hidden aspects of the card that make it feel like you can really use your intuition and play off of those things. Here's the Tower card. So yeah, that is the Raincoast Tarot. And like I said, this is the borderless edition from 2021. The next the next prompt is going to be the deck that pulls me out of a rut. So I could have chosen several for this of decks that just kind of cheer me up, is what I'm assuming they're kind of going for with that prompt. I chose the Tarot de Carlotitis. Yeah, I know, the debate. And again, really cute tuck box. The fact that it has the beautiful print from the backs of the cards on the inside is a cute touch. So yeah, this deck is just really fun. It is a Fournier deck, which I love the size and the card stock and all of the things. It just fits in the hand so nicely. And it really is a very fun deck, but it's also it's light, but it has sometimes a little bit of a I don't know, dark sense of humor sometimes is what I find. But just really speaks to me. And like I said, I don't know why, but it really can make me, it can cheer me up. It can definitely make me feel some feels. And, I just think it's beautiful, clever. And like I said, a good, perfect size because the hand pain is a thing. So as you can see, it's like, yeah, right there. So that is the Tarot de Carlotitis. And the last question is the deck that waits patiently. And it has waited and waited and waited. And that is the Arthurian Tarot. Again, I keep pulling these in upside down. So the Arthurian Tarot is, it's a tarot system that is supposed to be used for doing a Hallow Quest, which is a year-long quest of going through this book. And like I said, I to be honest with you, I got this book with the intention of getting started on it, and other things came up. And I actually heard other tarot tubers that were like, you know, that tried to do it and then fell off and that kind of thing. So yeah, so the Arthurian Tarot has been waiting for me to do the Hallow Quest, but it's yeah, it's probably not happening this year either. So it is a beautiful deck. I do love the nature-y, pagan-y vibes of it. I mean, it's beautiful with the animals. So very much kind of feels like a tarot of place as well. But yeah, one of these days I plan on doing the Hallow Quest with the Arthurian Tarot as it patiently waits for that. Okay, so that was all of the prompts for this tag. And if you stuck through it and listened to me ramble, thank you. And yeah, I am excited to be trying out doing some of my own videos. I'm not going to be editing. I'm not going to be doing any fancy graphics, but I'm going to keep putting myself out there because it's the only way I'll get better at it. And I do feel like I would like to connect more with the community. So I appreciate any comments or anything like that. And I wonder what your choices would be for these tarot prompts. All right. Well, Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.